What's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I've got what I think is a pretty cool ranking of the top 5 bass lakes in Arizona in 2024. I'm using a couple different things in consideration for my ranking. One, obviously, how many bass are in the body of water. 2, how big are they? 3, how big is the lake? How accessible is it? How much fishing pressure does it get? And I came up with a list, 1 through 5, of what I think are the best lakes in the state. I'm gonna go through the lakes. I'll tell you why I think they're so good. And of course, there are gonna be some lakes that are left off the list that I still like, especially at certain times, but that's how rankings go. You know, not everyone can be number 1. So this is for 2024. It might have been different last year and it might be different next year. Here in Arizona, we have a lot of things that change from year to year, especially like water level. You know, that's a really big consideration and a really big factor in how a lake is gonna fish. You know, what's the water level been like the last couple of years? How much cover's been in the water? How have the spawns been? Stuff like that. So let's dive into this thing. We'll start at number 5, Bartlett Lake. Bartlett, to me, is probably the easiest lake to go to and catch a bass on in the state of Arizona. It's got so many fish in it, fairly easy to get to from the Phoenix area. It's just north of Phoenix, and it's all largemouth. You know, you've got some other species in the lake. It's got some really big catfish. It's got some crappie. The forage, a lot of threadfin shad, crawfish, bluegill, really primarily shad and crawfish in my opinion, but it's a great lake to go to and catch fish. The water level fluctuates quite a bit, and one thing you'll notice when you look at the lake, especially when it's not like 100% full pool, is it doesn't have a lot of structure underwater. It's mainly rock structure. So of course the fish use those rocks, and a lot of times they'll be out in open water chasing shad as well. But you know, to me, it's one of those things, it's a great place to go when you're just trying to get bit, whether you're learning a new technique, taking a kid out, taking someone who doesn't fish a lot. I do a lot of my guiding on Bartlett because it is a great place to go get bit and build confidence. And you know, when I have a client that wants to learn a new technique, it's the perfect place to go. So I would put it at number 5, just again for sheer numbers. Now, as far as the quality of the fish goes, they don't grow nearly as big in Bartlett as they do in some of our other lakes. You know, if you catch one over 3 pounds, it's a really nice one at Bartlett. I would say the average size is going to be basically a 1 to a 2.5 pounder. For tournaments, you know, basically for tournament winning weights, best 5 fish, typically you're going to be looking at bags from like 12 to 15 pounds. There are exceptions. You know, I've seen some big bags caught there before, caught a couple myself, but typically 12 to 15 pounds is going to win a local tournament. It's extremely rare to catch one over 5 pounds out there. They exist. They're in there. I've caught a handful over my lifetime, over 5 pounds in Bartlett. But typically, you know, if you catch one up over 3 pounds, it's a really good one there. But it's a great lake to fish. So number 4, we've got Lake Mojave. This lake is a little bit further drive from the Phoenix area. It's on the Arizona-Nevada border. Closest city is going to be Laughlin, Nevada. Closest Arizona city would be Bullhead City or Kingman. This it's pretty amazing. I actually visited it for the first time a couple years ago for the US Open. The tournament went really well for me and I just fell in love with it. It's got probably the biggest smallmouth bass in the entire Southwest, and I love fishing for smallmouth. We have some smallmouth fishing here in Arizona, but most of our lakes are dominated by largemouth. So Mojave's cool because I think it actually even has as many or more smallies as it does largemouth, but it does have big largemouth. And when the conditions are right and the fish are shallow in that shallow cover, it can be really good. What makes, I think, Mojave so good is the constant water level. It's down below Meade. It's on the Colorado River. So Meade, obviously, I think everyone knows in the Southwest that that lake's very low. It's still huge, but the water level's down. They keep a lot of water in Mojave. It's a little bit of a shallower lake to begin with, and they keep it pretty full, usually, you know, above 90%. There's a couple times a year where they do draw the water down just a little bit, but overall it's full. And it's really, really clear. Got some of the clearest water that you'll ever see in a freshwater fishery here in the United States. At times you can see down 25 or 30 feet, so it's very cool. At times that can make the fishing a little challenging, but I would say overall, this lake definitely belongs in the top 5. It's got, you know, a lot of different forage. It's got some giant stripers. It's got obviously all the warm water fish that these lakes have. It's got catfish, it's got carp, bluegill, but I love the smallmouth and largemouth fishing there. You know, as far as forage for the bass, they're going to eat a lot of threadfin shad, a lot of crawfish, small bluegill. The lake's got a bunch in it, so a bunch of forage in it. I really love fishing there. It's really, really an awesome place to go. And it's number 4 on the list. Now, if you're looking for big numbers, Mojave's not necessarily always the lake to be at. It's great quality, not great quantity unless the fishing's on fire. I've had some days where I go out there and catch 25 bass, get 25 bites, but a lot of times, you know, you're going to be getting maybe 10 or 12 bites is a good day there, but the average size is phenomenal. A lot of 4 and 5 and 6 pound fish in that lake. Number 3, a lake that I do a ton of guiding on as well, Lake Roosevelt. This lake has got a really good blend of quantity and quality. It's going to be probably, I'd say, 95% largemouth, 5% smallmouth. It does have smallies, so that's always a nice surprise. But if you look at the lake, it's full of cover. You know, here in 2024, it's pretty full. This is a lake that fluctuates a lot. And the water levels in previous years often dictate the fishing that you're dealing with right now. We had a lot of rain and snow over the last couple of winters that filled the lake up. And what happens when there's a lot of cover in the water is they have great spawns. So a lot of trees in the water, a lot of brush. The fish had great spawn the last couple of years, and now we've got a lot of fish in that lake. And the growth rate's really fast. So you know, the tournament winning weights out there, they vary a lot. You know, sometimes there'll be tournaments where 14, 15 pounds wins. And then when the fishing's on fire in the spring and then again in the summertime, it takes well into the 20s. So, you know, there's 10 pounders in there, but you're not going to have the average size that you do on some of our lower Salt River lakes like Canyon and Saguaro. I'd say your average size is still going to be, you know, in the 2 to 2.5 pound range most of the time. But it's an awesome lake. A lot of different types of techniques that work there. If you're a power fisherman, you can go up into either river. There's 2 rivers that dump into the lake. There's a lot of extra cover in those places. If you're a finesse fisherman, stay main lake. You can fish rocks. You can find clear water. You can find dirty water. It's a very diverse fishery. And one other thing I love about Roosevelt is you have a lot of different launch ramps around the lake. So, you know, if you're not a guy that's got a boat that goes 70 miles an hour, maybe you're a kayak angler or a smaller boat angler, you can launch and fish around the launch. There's several different ramps to pick from all over the lake, and you can pick a part of the lake, say I'm going to that ramp, and fish all around that area and be around a lot of fish. So it's very accessible. It's northeast of the valley. You know, from the Phoenix area, it's about an hour-and-a-half drive. It's a good-sized lake, close to 20,000 acres when it's full, and it's one of my very favorites. I wouldn't be shocked in a year or two if this is number 1 on my ranking. I'm going to try to keep doing this every year, and we'll see if it changes. But right now I've got it at number 3, but it is on an upward trajectory, and if you've never been to Roosevelt Lake, I definitely think you should check it out. It's one of my favorite lakes. Saro Lake, number 2, Saro Lake. This lake, if it was bigger, it would be number 1. It is an absolute freak factory as far as giant bass. The only issue with Saro is it's so small and it gets very pressured. So, you know, the lake's, you know, not quite 2,000 acres, you know, and it gets, when the fishing's good and it's close to the valley, people get out there and do a lot of fishing. So it still puts them out, but it does get fished a lot more. If you're looking to go have a peaceful day by yourself, go to Roosevelt. If you're looking to get into the jungle with some other boaters and fight for some giant bass, Saguaro is a great place to go. So a lot of times it's my favorite when they're biting there. I spend a ton of time there. I do a lot of guiding there as well. It's got a lot of diverse cover and structure. It's got grass, which I haven't talked about in any of the lakes above. Mojave's got a little bit of it, but Saguaro's got a lot of grass ranging from submerged vegetation. It's got reeds. It's got A lot of artificial habitat in it, some natural trees, a lot of good rock structure. But again, we talk about water level a lot. Saguaro is extremely constant. It's the lowest lake on the Salt River chain. So it's got a constant water level. And the other big factor here, Saro Lake's got Florida strain bass in it. So they grow big, they grow fast, they fight hard, they're awesome fish, but they can be temperamental. And when the weather gets cold and when you have fronts, they get very hard to catch. So, you know, to me anyways, it's a really challenging but really fun lake, being close to the valley. I love going there, and honestly, anytime you can get out there and fish, you have a chance to catch a big one. The 2 biggest bass I've ever caught in my life, 12-pounders, have come out of Saguaro. So it's a really special place, definitely worth checking out. Number 1, drum roll, we're gonna go Lake Havasu. Havasu is one of my favorite lakes in the entire country, and it's a treat for me to get to go fish there. You know, I've fished a bunch of tournaments there over the years. It's about 3 hours from Phoenix. It's on the Arizona-California border on the Colorado River. It's the lake below Lake Mojave. I'm sorry, yeah, it is the lake below Lake Mojave. So Havasu, what I love about it, why it's number 1, great population of both smallmouth and largemouth bass, very diverse structure and cover, and the average size is really good. I would say it's not like an incredible numbers lake, but it can be a good numbers lake. But again, the quality. It's nothing to go out there and have a 3 or 4 pound average on all the fish that you catch all day when you get on them. Tons of 3 to 4 pound smallmouth and occasional 5. Tons of 3 to 5 pound largemouth and occasional 6 or 7. And it's got crazy, you know, those big giant red ear sunfish that everyone talks about. It's got good striper fishing. It's an awesome lake, very diverse. You can go up into the river, into the Colorado River, just run up into it in your boat and be fishing shallow grass, reeds, throwing a frog, flipping. Then you can come back down to the main lake and be throwing a Ned rig or a jerk bait or top water for smallmouth and largemouth. So it's super diverse. It's a cool lake. It's a treat for me to go there. And you know, even though out of all the lakes mentioned above, I don't get to Havasu more than a few times a year, it's like, it's my favorite. And it is number 1. I would say if Saguaro was bigger, Saguaro would take the title right now, but Havasu spreads out more. It's a, you know, if you said, hey Josh, I can teleport you to any lake to go fishing tomorrow, take me to Havasu. That's where I want to be. So that's where we're at for 2024. More videos coming, guys. Thanks again. Please, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And if you're looking for a guide trip, you can always send me an email, all lowercase, azangler@gmail.com. I run the trips through the Arizona fishing guides. It's azangler@gmail.com. When I'm not back east fishing tournaments, I do some guiding, and I would love to take you out on one of these lakes that I talked about here. So thanks again, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.